All right, folks, my name's Adam White, and it is time for the July 2020 Government Affairs update for the Alaska Airmen's Association. I am coming to you live from Nenana, Alaska, as I am still waiting on test results from flying outside last week, and have not received those test results back yet, so I am quarantining here in the hangar. And what better place to do that than surrounded by airplanes and projects to work on and those things. So hopefully everyone's doing well and staying healthy as we go through this crazy time of the COVID pandemic, as things are starting to open back up and life is still not back to normal, but we're doing the best we can, right? Several things I want to talk about with you this evening, as I see more and more folks are starting to join in. So I want to remind you that if you're not able to watch these events live when we have them, we do post them on our YouTube channel. You could just go in and to YouTube and type in Alaska Airmen's Association, and I'm sure you can find our channel there pretty easy. It's also archived on our Facebook page. Instagram is a little harder to find it archived on there. You know, just when you think you've got it figured out, Facebook and Instagram go back and change things up, don't they? So I do know that we are archiving these events on Facebook and on YouTube. So entertained a lot of questions earlier this week. And just a reminder for folks that may be looking at this on YouTube at a later time. YouTube is not live. Facebook and Instagram are, and you do not have to have a Facebook account to be able to see the content live as we do it. So just a little bit of housekeeping items for us this evening. Brought my copy of the transponder with me this evening. Hopefully you have received that in the mail by now. It was out to a lot of you on the 1st. Me being not in one of the major cities of Alaska, it took about 3 or 4 days longer to get my copy than everyone else, but I'm used to that now. So a lot of good content in this edition of the transponder. You probably saw the copy of the letter that I wrote on behalf of the Alaska Airmen's Association when it comes to the restricted area to the south of Nenana here at Clear Air Force Base, Air Force Station, north of Windy Pass. So if you fly through that area, I encourage you to read that letter in the transponder. It's also on our website if you want to go back and look at it there as well. But some of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is there's an article in this edition of the transponder talking about some of the cabins that are accessible by aircraft in Southeast Alaska. And you know, a lot of folks don't realize that those are available. So talking with members down in that part of the state and getting more information about those cabins, we realized that some of those cabins may be in jeopardy. You know, there's limited budgets, there's limited funds to keep these cabins up, and if they go away because they are in some lands that are classified as wilderness and other classifications, would prevent cabins from being rebuilt. So it's very important that we let the powers to be know that we are using these facilities via aviation, and that we want to see those facilities stay usable. So read that article in the transponder. If you haven't, I encourage you to do that. We're going to talk about that more as the months go on. I'm going to have some more pictures and other stories from folks as they use those facilities in the Southeast. So great asset that we have, not just in Southeast. There's other places around the state that we can access public lands via aircraft and be able to enjoy the great outdoors. Since the governor has asked that since the tourism industry has been hit so hard this year because of the COVID pandemic, that this is the perfect opportunity for Alaskans to see Alaska. So get out and do that. Be safe about it. But yeah, avail yourself of some of those great resources. On that line of thought, though, I was in a meeting just today, called in for the Governor's Aviation Advisory Board meeting, and so I was able to offer some public comments there in that meeting. And so talking about travel across the state. So it appears that some folks may be having some connection issues. I got to tell you, I am here in Nenana having to use the cell phone to be able to access the internet, just because the local internet is not good enough to stream 2 live events. And we do have a thunderstorm moving across, and so that may be helping with some of that. So apologize if you're having some connection issues this evening. But back to the meeting I was attending today, virtually attending via WebEx, and it's come up again and again that when we travel into the bush, we travel into remote and rural areas here in the state, there may be different travel restrictions in place in some of these locations that are off of the road system. How do you know what they are? How do you know if the information you have is valid and current? Well, that is a question and that is an issue. I am not the only one to bring that up. Several other folks have brought up that issue as well. So the state is working to try to figure out the best way to have a one-stop shop, a clearinghouse, for lack of a better term, of what those official travel restrictions and mandates may look like. It's a difficult task. Trying to compile all that data to make sure it's current, to make sure it's accurate, and so it's not going to be an easy thing. We've been working on this for a little over a month and a half now, believe it or not, and there was promised today that there'd be some information forthcoming very quickly on the state's website when it comes to the health mandates and other parts that we've all, I'm sure, referenced here in the past few weeks and months. So just to know that we are working on that as official Airmen's position and project for government affairs. I personally have had some difficulties trying to figure out what it takes to get into a particular village. Health mandates are confusing when you get off the road system. There's been some interaction between villages, and then one village says yes, the other village says no when you go in between the two, and it's very, very confusing. So we're working on that. That is one of the big topics that I've been working on. So if you want some more information on that, I encourage you to reach out to me. You can do that either through social media on our pages here, or you can send me an email. That email address is on our website, and I'll go ahead and give it to you now just to make sure that you have it. But adam.white, W-H-I-T-E, at alaskaairmen.org. One of the places that I've personally been able to find contact information is on the state's website for community and economic development. They do have some local contact information there, although I found that some of that information is not current. Some of those phone numbers are out of date, so it's a little frustrating when you go to an official website and the information is not current. So we're working on clearing that up as well with the state. Again, stay tuned for that information as we work a little bit closer with the state and the governor's office and Department of Health and Social Services, the Unified Command. All those folks were a part of this conversation today on that teleconference with the Governor's Aviation Advisory Board. So continuing on with some other information, we've had some updates on that special FAR that we talked about last time. About ways to extend some of the deadlines that we all face as pilots and as mechanics and as other airmen with currency requirements and other things. That was supposed to sunset on June 30th. The FAA, realizing that the world is not back to normal, has extended that a little bit further. So if you have some concerns about that, there is a 19-page frequently asked question document that I can send you a link for that might answer your questions for that. If not, let me know, and I can get you some other contact information to be able to get an answer. Talking with folks with in-flight standards last week, they asked that if we have questions to please reach out to them. They will do their best to find us an answer and to work that issue locally. I know when we read that special FAR, it gives a contact for someone in Washington, D.C. if you have questions. I will tell you that I have reached out to that person in Washington, D.C. I did get a response. Took a while. I wasn't the only one asking a question, apparently, and it took them a while to get to my question. They were not very helpful, and I don't fault them for that. It was a very unique situation I was asking about that a member had reached out to me, and after talking, I realized I was in exactly the same position as this member when it comes to renewing your flight review and renewing my flight instructor certificate, all of which, by the way, expires here in July. I successfully passed my EFERC today, just this afternoon, took that final exam and did very well. So I'm starting the process right now. I'll start it early tomorrow morning, going through IACRA and inputting all of my information to try to get my CFI and my CFII renewed by the end of the month. I don't anticipate any problems with that. But flight reviews are a little different because you do have to have some interaction with another flight instructor for the flight portion of that. There was some ways to extend that. If you take 3 wings credits, if you're not familiar with the wings program, you should talk to your flight instructor the next time you talk. There's a way to extend that if you took 3 wings credits. So there's ways to do these things that are probably dealt with in that special FAR 118. But it is a very long document, and the frequently asked questions page is 19 pages. So if you want to wade through all that, I encourage you to do that. And if you don't find your answer, please let me know. There's a very good possibility I can help you find your answer to your questions there if I don't already know the answer. So some of the other things that are going on. If you are on Facebook and follow the Alaska Airmen's Association, which I encourage you to do that, yesterday I posted a link to a survey that Sitka is doing. Sitka is trying to revitalize their float plane facilities, and they want to know what we want and what we need as seaplane users of their facilities. So, and please encourage you, if you yourself operate in Southeast Alaska and come in and out of Sitka, please participate in that survey. It doesn't take very long to do that. If you know someone who goes through there, even if they were a transient user, actually I would say especially if they're a transient user. Sometimes it's been my experience that these master plan reviews, the airport layout plans, the long-range strategic planning, all these things, sometimes it's very hard for the transient users to be able to voice their input and get things put into that plan that are needed for transient users. Always been very receptive. All the times I've been involved in those processes, folks have been very receptive to hear that information, and they really want to know, because transit users are very hard to reach out to because you just don't know where they're coming or going from. So please, if you do operate floats in Southeast, please go to the link that was in the post I put on Facebook yesterday for that survey for the seaplane base in Sitka. One other thing I want to talk about this evening, don't want to run on too long as we try to keep these relatively short, but try to keep them frequent enough, though, that we don't have to run so long. I have in my hand a proposal to decommission. And this was also posted on our Facebook page a few days ago, sometime last week, Chandalar Lake. And if you operate in the interior or on the North Slope, especially if you operate between those 2 locations, you know about the Chandalar Lake NDB. You know that it hasn't broadcast in many, many years. And you probably also are well aware that we use GPS for most of those travels back and forth. But the airway structure that is tied to that NDB, a lot of folks will use GPS in lieu of that NDB since it is not broadcasting and hasn't been for years. Here comes the problem. The FAA, to their credit, understands that the airway structure that is tied to that navigational beacon is important. And if you look at the low altitude IFR charts, you'll see some of those altitudes. I was just looking at them earlier this evening. Gets you down below 10,000 feet, and you can fly through there most of the time without having to get up too high. The problem's going to come when if they decommission this NDB, the airway structures that are tied to that location will go away. That is a problem. The other routes along that route will push you up a little bit higher. The things that they're going to do to that airway structure will bring it up higher to get to the next nav aid to receive. So that is a problem for us because, as we know, general aviation aircraft usually have a problem getting up into the flight levels, have a problem with wanting to pick up ice, and so we need to get down to those lower elevations. The FAA has been content to leave that NDB not broadcasting, but yet still on the books so that that airway structure is there. Here's where bureaucracies and different levels of government, there is a need to clean up the site. There's been some environmental concerns on the site that need to be addressed. Thankful that the FAA is wanting to address those environmental concerns. It has to deal with lead-acid batteries that have spilled and leaked over the years in the freeze-thaw cycle. We all know how lead-acid batteries work when they freeze. It doesn't end well. The FAA needs to clean that site up. They want to do it. Here's the problem. They cannot use funds to clean up that site unless the site is decommissioned. Sounds crazy, but the way things are written in the FAA, the rules and other parts trying to find the funding source to clean up that site, the site would have to be decommissioned first, and then it frees up funds to do a site cleanup. I would prefer that it not have to work that way. Totally agree the site needs to be cleaned up. We should try to find a new way to fund that. If you're interested, if you fly through that part of the state like I do, if you see how the trend is going, where NDBs are going away and they're being decommissioned slowly but surely, and we all know that at some point in time they are all going to go away. And you know, how many folks still watch a VHS tape on Friday night for family movie night? It's been a long time since that's happened in my household. It's not even DVDs anymore, except for last night when the power went out and then the internet went down and we couldn't live stream something. So we all understand the need for backups. We all understand the need to have more than one basket that we put all of our navigation eggs into. But we all agree, I think, that NDBs are a thing of the past and are slowly but surely we are all going to other methods and means of navigation. And so we know the NDBs are going to go away eventually. The Alaska Airmen's Association, along with many other groups here in and out of the state of Alaska, have long advocated that GPS is much more accurate, much easier to fly. I can't remember the last time I flew an ADF approach in actual conditions. It's been a while. But we still use the colored airways. So if you would like to comment on this proposal for decommissioning, the document is up on our Facebook page. There's a way to get in touch. There's an email address and other things that you can use to submit comments on. As always, I would ask that if you do submit comments, please do me a favor and let me know what you said. I need to know how our members are needing to be able to operate. It also keeps me in the loop as to what's been submitted to the FAA so that I can talk intelligently with them about those submittals, and then we can help the FAA come to a more workable solution. Hopefully, that's the plan. So those are the main things I wanted to talk about this evening. I did not receive any specific questions from anyone as we got up and running and in the week leading up to it. But seeing that we've got several people on Facebook and Instagram here live, just kind of curious as I've been looking through the comments as they've popped up, curious if anybody has any specific questions that I might be able to address for us here live this evening. So if you do, put those in the comments right quick, and I'll try to address them here as we go. So kind of a stump the chump kind of thing here. So we'll see if anybody has any questions for us tonight. But as again, I trust that all of you are doing well and staying healthy and being able to go out and travel and enjoy the state. I do ask, though, as you do that, please be responsible with where you operate and how you operate.